I worked nights at a paranormal call center, and I never gave my real name. At 1:26 a.m., the legacy line lit up anyway, and the foam on my headset turned cold against my ear. The shift binder sat open beside my keyboard because my probation clock ended at dawn, and one more QA miss meant a badge lockout by 7 a.m. The pages smelled like burnt toner and old coffee, the kind that sticks in paper fibers, and my hand kept worrying the frayed corner out of habit. Keep it clean, I told myself, like the binder could hear it. The call timer started running, and the little green bar on my screen trembled like it had a pulse. Names are keys. I learned that too late. That first ring already broke a rule, which should have been enough for me to let it die in my headset. Anyone who has worked a night shift on a floor full of empty cubicles knows silence has weight. So the moment the legacy line rang, the quiet pressed closer. The vending machine fan in the break hall usually whined all night, but that whine cut out, and the sudden absence made my shoulders tighten, because my body expects the background to stay predictable. The binder had one line underlined twice in faded pen, written by someone who liked to press hard. Never answer legacy after 1:20 a.m. A second sentence followed, but a smear of something dark had turned half the words into a bruise. I leaned in, squinting, and my own breath fogged the plastic cover. The safe choice sat right in front of me. Let it roll. Log it. Pretend it never rang. The problem came from my own small lie. I had been padding my stats for 2 weeks, shaving seconds where I could, closing tickets fast, praying the score would tick up before the review. I had promised the floor manager I never touched legacy because that line belonged to special cases, and special cases wrecked handle time. Keep it clean, I told her. Keep it clean, I told myself. Then the call rang, and that green bar looked like a lifeline. My finger hit the answer key because I needed the one thing the job rewards: compliance. The screen populated with a case tag, PN447C, and the caller ID field stayed blank, which normally meant a blocked number. A tiny detail sat in the corner of the ticket window, where the system stamped revision info, and the string of characters ended with 2 lowercase letters that did not belong there. I noticed them, and then I moved on because the habit in my head counts alarms, not letters. My mouth followed the script. My voice sounded calm because the headset filters out tremor, and that filter made me think I had control. A breath slid down the line, too slow for a living person on a bad connection, and then a man spoke, my alias, without hesitation. "Evening, Operator Gray," he said, and the way he said it carried a smile I could hear. "I need help." Operator Gray was the name on my badge sticker, not my legal name, not the name on my tax form, not the name my mother used when she got scared. My throat loosened a notch because the rule only cared about the real one. The binder lay open at my elbow like a witness. "Thank you for calling intake," I said, because the job untrains a voice into everyone. "What can I do for you tonight?" The caller exhaled again, and the line made a soft click, like a switch flipping in a different room. "I want your name," he said. A normal caller asks for a supervisor. A normal caller complains. A normal caller says the building feels haunted and wants permission to break a lease. This voice asked for a name, like it mattered more than the haunting. The binder had a laminated card tucked into the front pocket. Its corner peeled back, and somebody had tried to tape it down, but the tape had yellowed and let go. I slid it out with my thumb, and the plastic felt tacky. The card said, "If a caller asks for your legal name, you end the call. You log code N3. you do not explain. The next line, smaller, looked like it had been printed twice on top of itself. If a caller speaks your legal name first, you do not repeat it. My mouth went dry, and my stress reflex kicked in. I pinched the headset cord between my fingers until the ridges bit my skin, then loosened, then pinched again. The pressure helped me think in lines, not fear. I can provide an operator ID, I said, and my voice stayed professional, because the training does that too. Operator Gray. The caller laughed once, quiet, like he had heard the punchline already. No, he said. The one your mother uses. The cold on my ear spread and the skin at my hairline prickled. My eyes jumped to the smear in the binder, the bruised sentence after the legacy rule, because my brain wanted the comfort of instructions. The smeared line could have been anything. It could have said never transfer. It could have said do not engage. It could have said end call. The caller waited, and the line clicked again, measured like a metronome. The office around me stayed empty, but the overhead lights above my row dipped in brightness for half a second, then recovered. The motion sensor at the end of the aisle blinked red, then went dark. My badge lay on the desk beside my wrist, because I had taken it off to stop fidgeting with it, and the plastic felt warmer than it should have. Listen, I said, because a lie arrives easier than panic. My real name stays private for security. Security, the caller repeated, and his voice thinned, mocking the word. Then security this. A sound played through my headset. Not a recording with hiss or compression artifacts. Not a clip with a hard cut. The line carried room tone, a soft churn like an old air conditioner, and beneath it a familiar rustle of fabric. The sound punched memory out of me before my mind could block it. My mother's voice screamed my name, not my alias, not Operator Gray. My name, full and sharp, the way she used it when she caught me sneaking out as a teenager, the way she used it once in the hospital when she woke up disoriented and thought I had left her. My name came through the headset with the same clipped breath she makes before she yells, and the scream rose into a sob that sounded too immediate to be a deep fake, too messy for a prank. The scream ended on a word that made my stomach roll, because nobody at work knew that nickname but my family. I said my name back without deciding to. I spoke it like an answer to a quiz, like the word could calm her, like the sound could reach through a phone line and anchor her to something safe. The moment the name left my mouth, the legacy caller hung up. The dial tone did not arrive. My desk phone rang. That phone never rang on nights like this. It existed for internal transfers and emergencies, and the rare maintenance call about a badge door, and most nights, it stayed dead. Its red light flashed now slow and steady, and the display showed a number with too many digits, longer than the system allows, like someone had poured extra characters into a slot. My hand hovered over it, shaking just enough to make the ring light blur. I could have let it ring. I could have pulled my headset off and walked to the break room and pretended a fire alarm test had gone off in my skull. Rena's chair sat across the aisle, empty for the moment, her cardigan draped over the back, because she always forgot it. She was the only other person scheduled with me overnight, and she had stepped out 10 minutes earlier to check on her dad's night nurse. Her dad had a fall last month and now lived in a place with locked doors and polite voices, and she took every late shift she could to cover the copay. I had seen her wiping tears in the restroom sink once and then coming out smiling like the job trains that response too. The phone kept ringing, and the red light stayed calm, like it had all the time in the world. Keep it clean, I told myself, and my fingers reached for the receiver anyway. My mother's voice filled my ear again, closer than before. The scream carried no echo. The sound sat right on top of my hearing like a hand over my mouth. She screamed my name again, then stopped so abruptly that my skin went gooseflesh. A different voice joined hers, softer, almost apologetic. "Confirm the operator identity," the voice said, and the words arrived in my mother's tone, like someone had taught a machine to wear her voice as a uniform. "State your legal name for verification." The line made 3 clicks in a row. The laminated card had another line, lower on the plastic, and my eyes snapped to it because my mind needed rules like breath. It said, "If the line clicks 3 times, you mute your mic. You do not speak." My thumb slapped the mute button so hard the plastic creaked. The habit came from an old job in a different call center, back when mistakes cost money, not whatever this felt like. I held the receiver away from my face, and my mother kept screaming my name into the space between us, and the scream never ran out of air. I slammed the receiver down, then yanked my headset off so fast the cord snagged on my chair arm. The ear cup left a cold crescent behind on my skin. The silence that followed did not sound normal. No ventilation hum, no distant printer warm-up, no faint buzz from fluorescent lights. The floor turned into a vacuum, and the emptiness pressed so hard it made my ears ring. My computer still showed the PN447C ticket open. The call timer had stopped. The notes field had filled itself in line by line, while my hands were nowhere near the keyboard. The words in the notes field used my name over and over the same way a script repeats an operator ID. The system wrote it cleanly, consistent spelling, no typos like it had always belonged there. I stared at it until my eyes watered because blinking felt like surrender. Rena came back through the double doors from the break hall, and the first thing I noticed was her shoes. The soles squeaked on the tile in a pattern that matched the 3 clicks on the line. That connection made no sense, and my brain grabbed it anyway. She saw my face and stopped short. Her hand went to her pocket, checking for her badge, then checking again, because she has her own reflex when fear hits. "What happened?" she asked, and her voice stayed low because the floor makes people whisper even when nobody else listens. My throat worked twice before sound came out. "Legacy rang," I said. I answered. I shouldn't have. I almost said the caller said my name, and the urge to speak it again pulled at my tongue like a hook. My hand pinched the headset cord until my fingers hurt, then loosened, then pinched. The pain helped. Rena's eyes flicked to the open binder. She leaned over it without touching, like the pages might bite. Her perfume smelled faintly like hand sanitizer, sharp and sweet, and that smell made the office feel more real for a second. "Legacy after 1:20, she said, and her voice held zero surprise, like she had seen the rule break before. "That line doesn't ring by accident." "It used my mom," I said, and shame crawled up my neck because the sentence sounded ridiculous. "It made my desk phone ring. It said my name." Rena didn't laugh. She didn't look away. That steadiness scared me more than disbelief would have. "The binder says that happens," she said, and she pointed at the smeared sentence. "That smear line. Remember?" I leaned in beside her, close enough to smell paper and toner and her hand lotion, and we stared at the bruise on the page. Under the overhead light, the smear took on a shape, like a loop, like a broken letter. The printed words around it stayed legible. "If family voice used," the line began. The smear swallowed the middle. The line ended with "state legal name once." My stomach dropped. Rena read it out loud, slow. "If family voice used, state legal name once." She paused and swallowed. "That reads like instructions." It reads like a trap, I said, and the words came out harsh because anger arrived easier than fear. Rena's gaze slid to my monitor. She saw the ticket notes field full of my name. Her eyebrows pulled together and her hands went still in her lap. A rare moment of quiet from someone who always fidgets. The system wrote that, she said. My hands weren't near the keys, I said, and my voice cracked on the last word. I muted, I hung up. Rena reached across the aisle, pulled her chair close, and sat beside me, shoulder to shoulder, like the physical contact could keep something from sliding between us. She smelled like cold air from outside and the stale coffee she always carried in a tumbler. Her presence made the room feel less empty, and that mattered more than logic. I need to pull the recording, she said. Audio doesn't lie like notes fields do. A competent plan, simple, grounded. I clung to it. Rena opened the call archive, clicked the PN447C case tag, and pulled up the auto transcript panel. The system generated those transcripts for QA, and the job taught everyone to treat them like truth, because arguing with a transcript gets staff written up. The transcript header populated, then blinked. Every time the word operator should have appeared, the transcript replaced it with my legal name. Not my alias, not a placeholder. My name spelled right. Every time. Rena frowned and tapped the screen. Maybe the profile got corrupted, she said, and the sentence carried the kind of denial that makes a person feel safer for half a breath. Maybe, I said, because that word buys time. She hit play. The audio started with the standard greeting, then the caller voice, then my reply. The audio held my alias, Operator Gray, clean and clear. The caller asked for my name. The audio held my refusal. Then the audio held my mother's scream, and it sounded exactly the same as it had through my headset. The audio held my voice saying my name. Rena flinched. She had never heard my name on the floor before because nobody uses real names at night, and our floor manager hates it. Hearing it in that recording sounded like a violation bigger than policy. The caller hung up. The audio ended. The transcript below kept writing. Not typing sounds, not matching words, just writing, line by line, adding new sentences the audio never contained, all of them using my name. Transcript mutation. Rena whispered like she had just found a species name on a warning label. I need to report this, I said, and my mouth said it automatically because the job trains escalation pathways. The truth sat behind that sentence. Reporting meant exposure, and exposure meant the system learned more. Rena grabbed my wrist before I could open the supervisor chat. Her grip felt warm and human, and the warmth made me realize my hands were cold. Think, she said. That binder line already looks wrong. Reporting might trigger something. The note under my keyboard came back to me. A scrap of paper I had laughed at when I found it months ago, tucked beneath the desk lip like a secret. Someone had written it with a blunt pencil, hard enough to leave grooves. I pulled it out and smoothed it flat. The note said, "If the caller uses family voices, do not ping a supervisor line. The supervisor line answers back." The second sentence had been crossed out once, then written again, darker. "Do not ping a supervisor line." Rena's eyes widened. "That wasn't here last month," she said. "It was," I said, and guilt hit because I had seen it and ignored it. I thought someone was being dramatic. Keep it clean, I told myself. But the lie had already happened. We sat there shoulder to shoulder, two adults pretending paper rules could hold back a voice wearing a parent. My desk phone rang again. The red light flashed, steady, patient. Rena stared at it like it had teeth. "Don't answer," she said. My chest tightened. My mother lived in a care facility 2 towns over, and the night nurse sometimes called me from a private number when my mother got agitated. Those calls happened rarely, but when they happened, they mattered. The word emergency carries its own gravity. What if, I started, then stopped, because the question didn't deserve air. Rena shook her head fast. That line doesn't call for help, she said. That line calls to collect. The desk phone kept ringing. The floor sound did not return. No fan, no hum. The absence made the ring feel louder, like the building existed, only as a stage for that sound. Rena opened the shift binder to the tab marked Night Intake script, and her finger traced the rules, searching for the specific one that matched this moment. The tab label had been printed crooked, a tiny tilt, and I remembered noticing that months ago and thinking the printer alignment needed service. Now that tilt felt like a fingerprint. Rena found another laminated strip, taped inside the binder spine. It read, "If the desk line rings after a legacy call you do not pick up, you unplug the handset cord from the base and you wait 10 minutes. 10 minutes. An eternity on QA probation. A gift on a night like this." Rena's eyes met mine. "Do it," she said. The base cord connection sat under the phone, a thick coil that snapped into a port. My fingers hesitated, then moved, because action feels better than thinking. The plastic plug clicked as I pulled it free, and the ring cut off mid-breath like someone had put a hand over a mouth. The quiet that followed felt wrong in a different way. Rena exhaled. Her shoulders dropped an inch. Relief arrived, tiny and sharp like stepping away from a ledge. On my screen, the transcript panel updated without warning. The word wait changed to my name. Rena stared at it, then looked back at the disconnected phone, then back at the transcript. Her mouth opened, closed. "That doesn't track," she said, and her voice shook because logic had failed. "Maybe it's a test," I said, and I hated how much I wanted that explanation. A test means humans. Humans mean rules work. Rena's gaze slid to the security camera dome above our row. The dome sat dark, no red recording light visible from this angle, but the system records anyway. The floor manager loves surveillance because it makes staff behave. Rena stood, walked to the wall monitor by the aisle, and tapped the feed selector. The monitor showed the wide shot of the floor, rows of cubicles, empty chairs, the glow of screens. My chair showed up in that feed. My chair sat empty. Rena's chair sat empty. Our monitors glowed in the feed, but no bodies sat at them. The view held the same empty office I would have seen if I had walked away, except my own skin proved I was still here. Rena stepped closer to the monitor, and the glass reflected her face for a second. Her eyes looked too large in the reflection, not because of the monitor, but because fear makes pupils open wide. The feed timestamp in the corner did not advance. The same 2 seconds looped, over and over, smooth enough to miss unless someone watches for it. A loop, not a dropout. A choice. A repeated clip, and the system pretending it was live. Rena backed away, and her heel hit the leg of a chair. The chair did not squeak. No sound came out at all. Her mouth moved, but her voice came out muffled, like the air had thickened. She tapped her throat, then swallowed hard. Her voice returned with effort. "CCTV loop," she said, "by design." My skin crawled under the collar of my shirt because the building had turned from workplace into trap. Rena looked at me with a decision already forming. "We need containment," she said. "Not reporting. Containment." The phrase sounded absurd in a call center, but the binder had a tab labeled that exact word, and I had laughed at it when I first got hired. The tab sat worn, touched often, like it belonged to someone who had done this before. Rena flipped to it, and the page under the tab smelled faintly of bleach, like someone had tried to clean something off paper and failed. The printed instructions looked official, but the paper edges curled, and the corner held a crease like a folded secret. The page said, "If the transcript writes a legal name, you print the page. You seal it in the gray envelope in the lockbox. You do not store it digitally." Rena pointed to the gray envelopes in a small metal box mounted under the desk. I had never opened that box. Nobody on day shift mentioned it. "Printing costs time," I said automatically, and the sentence sounded pathetic even to me. Rena's jaw tightened. "My dad needs me after shift," she said. "Time already costs." Her voice cracked on the last word, and shame hit me because my fear had made me selfish again. I had pulled her into this by answering a call I wanted for my metrics. I nodded. "Do it." The printer across the aisle woke with a whir, and that whir sounded like relief, because the world had a familiar noise again. The paper tray clicked. The machine fed a sheet out, warm from the rollers. The printed transcript page came out wrong. The header showed the correct case tag, PN-447C, but the revision string at the top ended with those two lowercase letters again, the ones I had noticed and dismissed. On the printed page, those letters sat darker, bolder, like someone had pressed a stamp there. Rena grabbed the page, and the warmth of it made her flinch, because fear makes heat feel like danger. She read the body of the transcript, then looked up. "My name," she whispered. Her legal name had replaced random words in the transcript now, not just mine. The desk phone base, unplugged, made a small click sound on its own, like a relay resetting. The disconnected handset cord twitched, barely against the desk surface, and the movement made my stomach turn because plastic does not move without hands. Rena shoved the printed page toward me. "Seal it," she said, and her voice carried urgency. My fingers pinched the cord of my headset again, then let go. I grabbed a gray envelope, and the paper felt thicker than normal office stationery, almost waxed. The smell rose from the envelope, faintly metallic like pennies, and my tongue pressed against my teeth because my body wanted to spit out fear. I slid the printed page inside and sealed the flap. The moment I pressed the flap closed, the office lighting stabilized, brightened a notch, and the air felt lighter. A small victory, concrete and physical. Rena exhaled again. Relief flashed across her face, and for a heartbeat, she looked like someone who could go home after shift. My monitor blinked. The ticket PN-447C closed itself. The resolution code field filled in without my input using a code I had never seen in training. The system tagged the call as resolved, then locked the ticket, preventing edits. The auto-close happened in under a second, too fast for a human manager. "That steals evidence," I said, and my voice went flat because anger makes people sound calm. Rena nodded. "Resource loss," she said, like she had been waiting for the next cost. Her badge made a soft beep from her pocket, a sound that usually means an incoming message. She pulled it out and stared at the tiny screen on the back. Her clearance level had changed. The badge now displayed a lower access tier, the one for temps and day visitors. The building had demoted her with no conversation, no meeting, no warning. Rena's face drained of color. "That means I can't exit through the side door," she said, and the sentence came out with a strange kind of awe. "That means the building decides when I leave." My own badge buzzed a heartbeat later. I pulled it out. My tier had changed, too. Keep it clean, I thought, then hated myself for it because the phrase sounded like surrender. The floor returned to normal sound for about 5 minutes. Fans hummed. The vending machine whined again. Somewhere down the hall, the ice machine dropped a cube into a tray. Relief had a rhythm, and my body followed it. Then a soft sound drifted through my headset lying on the desk, even though the headset was unplugged. A page turned. Not a loud paper flip. A careful, slow page turn, the kind someone does when reading in a library and trying not to bother anyone. The sound came from the headset ear cup like the speaker inside held a tiny person turning pages of my ear. Rena froze. Her eyes went to the binder. Her hands stayed still. The page turn sound repeated. One page, another. Then the sound stopped, and the office fell into a thin quiet that felt like someone holding breath. It didn't register until later, I told myself, and the words came out as a whisper I did not mean to speak. My gaze slid back to those 2 lowercase letters on the printed header, the ones that kept showing up. I had seen them again and again, and I still had not asked what they meant. Rena stood and walked toward the exit doors, testing the badge reader without crossing the threshold. Her hand shook as she presented her badge. The reader light flashed red and made a low denial tone. No exit, she said. Containment turns into quarantine. A new call came through the regular queue, not legacy. The green bar pulsed. The system did not wait for permission. Rena looked at me. If calls keep coming, it will keep collecting, she said. Maybe it wants more names. A moral choice arrived, dressed as policy. Answering calls keeps the queue moving, keeps stats alive, keeps supervisors happy. Refusing calls triggers an auto flag, and auto flags trigger manager involvement. Manager involvement triggers the supervisor line. The handwritten note under the desk had been clear. Supervisor line answers back. Rena swallowed. My dad's nurse calls at 2 o'clock, she said, and her voice tightened. If my badge locks, I can't leave at shift end. If I can't leave, I miss the window to check his meds. That matters. The call bar kept pulsing. I reached for my headset and stopped. My fingers hovered over the foam, remembering the cold. My stress reflex started again, pinching cord, releasing, pinching, releasing. We answer, I said, and the decision tasted like rust. But we don't feed it. Rena nodded once, sharp. Keep it clean, she said, and hearing my phrase in her mouth made it feel less like a joke. I plugged the headset back in and hit answer on the new call, forcing my voice into the script again because survival on this floor meant pretending the floor was normal. A woman cried on the line. Her voice sounded real, messy, human. She described footsteps in a hallway, a door that opened by itself, a mirror that reflected a figure behind her. The content sounded like the calls we take every week, the kind that might be pranks or stress or genuine fear. My body almost relaxed, which is when the system slipped the knife in. The woman on the line paused, then spoke Rena's name. Not her alias, not her operator ID. Her name, full correct pronunciation, the one she had only used once on the floor when she got a call from a hospital and forgot herself. Rena's face went white. Her eyes locked on mine. Her hands rose, palms out, like someone showing they hold nothing. The caller said, Rena, please. And the voice shifted, sliding into an older man's tone, hoarse and familiar, and Rena made a sound deep in her throat that broke my heart because it came from duty, not fear. Her dad's voice said her name. Rena reached for the headset cord on my desk, and her fingers trembled so hard she could barely grasp it. The urge in her face looked like drowning. The laminated card had said not to repeat a name. The binder smear line had suggested stating a name once. The unofficial note had warned against supervisors. None of it helped when the voice sounded like the man who raised her. I made a decision that broke policy, and Probably saved her. I hit the hold button. The system hates hold time because hold time damages metrics. The floor manager writes people up for it. I hit it anyway, and the hold music started, a tinny loop of rain sounds, the kind meant to calm callers. The rain sounded artificial, too consistent, but it gave us 10 seconds of distance. Rena grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my sleeve. "I need to answer," she whispered. "I'll call the facility from the break room line," I said, because competence means alternatives. "Real number, not this." Rena shook her head. "Phones route through the same trunk," she said, and her voice held a terrible clarity. "Everything routes through the same trunk." The hold music glitched. One raindrop sound stuttered, then repeated again like a skipping record. The stutter formed a rhythm. My skin crawled because the rhythm matched the 3 clicks earlier. The call came off hold by itself. The older man's voice returned, louder. "Rena," it said, and the line carried the wet sound of breath through plastic, like someone speaking with a mask pressed to their mouth. Rena's eyes filled with tears. "Dad?" she said, and the word came out before she could stop it. The voice on the line said in her dad's tone, "Say your name." I slammed mute. Rena stared at me, furious for half a second, then grateful, then ashamed, all emotions cycling fast because fear does that. "This is the trap," I said, and my voice shook. "It uses duty." Rena's hands covered her mouth, and I hated the system for knowing that adult love makes the best bait. The floor manager chat window on my screen popped open without me clicking it. A message appeared, typing itself. The message used my name as the sender. It read, "Security verification required. Confirm legal name to restore access." Rena saw it and made a small broken laugh. "Authority betrayal," she whispered. "The building talks in manager voices." A second message appeared. "Rena verification required. Confirm legal name to clear line." My chest tightened. The system was offering relief and demanding identity as payment. I made the choice that ruined my stats and kept Rena breathing. I pulled the network cable from the back of my workstation. The connector resisted, then came free with a sharp pop. The screen froze for a beat. The chat window stopped typing. The call line dropped into silence. For 1 full second, relief filled the row like warm air. Then the desk phone base clicked, even unplugged, and the headset in my hand played a soft ring tone that did not belong to any company system. The system had switched routes, found another path like water finding cracks. The ticket system came back on a backup connection I didn't know existed. The green bar pulsed again, calm as a heartbeat. Rena stared at the unplugged cable in my hand. "That costs evidence," she said. She was right. The call archive pane cleared. The PN 447C ticket disappeared from the list, like it had never existed. The printed envelope in the lockbox felt suddenly precious. The only physical proof left. The hold music rain loop started playing from nowhere, faintly under the floor sounds, like the building had learned the song. We both sat down because standing felt like giving the system a show. Our chairs squeaked again, finally, and the ordinary noise made tears sting my eyes, because ordinary had become rare. Rena wiped her face with the back of her hand. "2 explanations," she said, and her voice steadied because naming options helps. "Either humans built a test to catch policy breakers, or something rides the system and uses names as hooks." "Maybe both," I said, because the evidence had started disagreeing with itself. Rena nodded. "Test the human theory," she said. "Run a controlled call." competence porn, the only kind of comfort left. We opened a new ticket manually, a blank case, and routed a test call from the training extension, the internal line used for drills. Rena read from a script, and I responded using my alias, keeping my real name trapped behind my teeth. I stayed calm because calm keeps words inside. The audio of that internal call played back clean. The transcript mutated anyway. Every time the transcript should have said operator, it used my real name. Every time it should have said trainee, it used Rena's real name. The system did not care what audio contained. The system wrote what it wanted. The human theory cracked. Rena looked at the two lowercase letters again, the ones at the end of the revision string. Her eyes narrowed. "Those letters show up only on mutated tickets," she said. I leaned in and felt my skin tighten with recognition. The letters matched the shape of the smear in the binder, a looped little mark that had caught my eye and then vanished from attention. The letters formed an abbreviation I had seen in the training portal once and ignored because it was above my pay grade. A category tag, name permission. The concept hit like a slap. The system wasn't stealing names. The system was logging consent. The smeared line in the binder suddenly mattered more than all the clear ones. Rena grabbed the binder and flipped back to the legacy section, searching for that smeared sentence. The page looked the same, but the smear had shifted. The bruise moved a millimeter, enough that the missing word changed shape. Rena read it again. "If family voice used, state legal name once," she said, then stopped because a new line had appeared beneath it, faint. The printer across the aisle whirred again without anyone touching it. A new page fed out. Rena grabbed it and scanned it fast. Her face twisted with disgust. "The revision drift fixed the smear," she said, and she held the page toward me. The printed instruction read cleanly now. "If family voice used, do not state legal name. State operator ID only. The family voice is a compliance test. Trap rule. Safe sounding, official, deadly when misread." I had followed the smear. I had obeyed a damaged line. I'd spoken my name because the binder made it look like a required step. The office rewarded obedience by opening a door for something that wears voices. Rena stared at me, and the judgment in her eyes softened into something worse. "Pity. That line got you," she said, "not the caller." My stomach rolled. The shame turned hot, then cold. The desk phone base clicked again. This time the ringing came from the overhead speakers. Not the phone, not the headset. The entire row filled with a low ringtone, stretched out, distorted like the building itself wanted attention. All the ambient sound dropped out again. Fan hum vanished. Fluorescent buzz disappeared. The ringtone stood alone in a vacuum, vibrating in my ribs. Rena grabbed my sleeve and her fingers shook. "If it goes floor wide, it pulls more operators," she said. "Day shift arrives in 4 hours. Stakes re-anchored in my mind with a single image. A new hire sitting at my station, reading the smeared line, answering a call, saying a name because a parent voice begs. I could not let that happen. My phone, personal, the one that should have been dead in my pocket, vibrated against my thigh. I pulled it out even though the binder forbids personal phones on the floor. The screen lit up with an incoming call from a number labeled care facility, the saved contact for my mother. Seeing that label made my chest hurt, because duty never turns off. The call came in through my cell network, not the office system. Rena saw it and whispered, "Don't." My thumb hovered over accept. The moral dilemma cut clean through my head. Answering might mean real emergency. Answering might mean consent. Ignoring might mean my mother alone and afraid. Ignoring might mean the only way to keep names sealed. I made the most selfish choice first, because fear wants comfort. I declined the call. Then guilt hit so hard it made my eyes sting. Rena watched me and her face softened again. "Call back later," she said, and the sentence offered permission I didn't deserve. The personal phone screen immediately lit again with an incoming call, same number. I declined again. The third incoming call arrived with no label, just digits, and the digits matched my own phone number. My breath caught. The system had moved inside my pocket. The ringtone from the overhead speakers stopped, and the quiet that followed felt like someone stepping back before pushing. Rena stood up fast. "Lockbox," she said, "seal every mutated page. Cut off permission." We printed, we sealed. We fed gray envelopes into the lockbox slot until the metal box felt heavy and full, and every time an envelope slid inside, the light steadied for a heartbeat, and the floor felt almost normal, seeming victory, solid enough to taste. The desk phone did not ring. The headset stayed quiet. The vending machine fan came back. Even the stupid fluorescent buzz returned, irritating and familiar. Rena let out a laugh that sounded like relief and exhaustion mixed. "Maybe that's it," she said, and she looked embarrassed for hoping. I wanted to grab that hope and keep it, so I nodded. The printer spat out one last page, then stopped. We sat down and breathed for 2 full minutes. Then the lockbox made a sound from inside, a soft chirp like a modem handshake, and every muscle in my body went tight. The lockbox had never made sound before. Rena leaned close, listening, and her cheek brushed my shoulder. Her skin felt warm, alive, real. The lockbox chirp repeated, and the desk phones across the empty floor started ringing one by one like a wave. Not one line, all lines. The system had taken our sealed names and used them like an address book. Rena's desk phone lit up with her dad's saved contact name on its display, even though we never programmed desk phones with personal labels. The building did that on purpose, wearing certainty like a mask. My desk phone display showed my mother's contact name. The overhead speakers filled with a chorus of familiar voices, saying real names, begging, screaming, coaxing, laughing, every tone a hook. The sound did not blend into noise. Each voice stayed distinct enough to grab attention. The real rule revealed itself through action, not paper. Sealing names did not contain them. Sealing names delivered them. Rena covered her ears. Tears ran down her cheeks without her wiping them. "This isn't a test," she said, and the sentence sounded like grief. A supervisor chat window opened again on my screen, and the system typed with perfect punctuation. "Compliance success. Identity confirmed. Proceed to verification." The building wanted the final step. Spoken consent. I grabbed the binder and flipped back to the containment tab. Desperate, my fingers shook so hard the pages fluttered. The new handwritten note slid out from between 2 pages, like someone had just placed it there. The note had been written with the same blunt pencil as the earlier one. The graphite grooves cut into paper. It said, "Do not seal in the lockbox. Lockbox is intake." Below that, a second line, darker. "Burn the paper or move it off-site." Off-site, a choice, a cost. The exit doors still rejected our badges. The building had demoted us into a closed system. Rena's eyes met mine through tears. "We can't leave through doors," she said. "So how off-site?" My gaze went to the only threshold not controlled by badges, the drop ceiling panel above the copy room, where maintenance access leads to the roof crawlspace. I had climbed through it once to retrieve a fallen cable. The crawl space leads to an exterior hatch with a simple latch. No reader. Time, access, safe space. We had already paid in all three. Ceiling, I said. Rena shook her head. If we go up there, we lose the floor, she said. We lose the lockbox. We lose the only printed proof. We take the proof, I said, and my voice surprised me with steadiness. We move it off-site. We leave a warning. The phones kept ringing. The chorus of voices kept saying names. The sound drilled into my skull like a headache with teeth. Rena grabbed her cardigan off her chair and wrapped it around her head like a hood, trying to dampen the voices. The fabric looked absurd and brave at the same time. I opened the lockbox with trembling hands. The key hung on a lanyard under the desk, hidden in a slot. Another detail I had never needed until now. The key metal felt cold, but not like the headset cold. This cold felt like plain metal, real physics, a mercy. The lockbox door opened. Every envelope inside had been slit open, clean cuts, like someone used a letter opener. The papers inside were gone. Only one gray envelope remained intact, the first one we sealed. The PN447C transcript. The system had left us a single piece on purpose. A message blinked on my monitor, the text field filling itself again. Proceed with verification. Legal name required. Rena looked at the intact envelope and swallowed. They left bait, she said. I nodded. They want me to open it, I said, and the truth landed heavy. They want me to read my name again. Rena's phone display changed. The caller label for her dad shifted into a blank field, then into my mother's contact name, then into nothing. The system was mixing identities now, swapping voices like files. The chorus of voices stopped all at once. Silence hit so hard my ears hurt. In that silence, a single voice spoke from the headset on my desk. Quiet and intimate, my mother's tone softened into a whisper. Hold the line, she said. The phrase hit like a memory of a better job, a better night. A joke supervisors used when calls stacked up. Hearing it in her voice felt wrong in a way I could not explain. Rena stared at me. That's your phrase, she whispered. That thing listens. The two lowercase letters came back in my head. Name permission. The planted detail paid off in a flash. The system didn't need my voice to say my name. The system needed my permission to treat the name as active. And permission arrives through obedience, through reading, through repeating, through acknowledging. The intact envelope wasn't proof. It was an invitation. I didn't open it. I grabbed it and shoved it into my pocket, then stood up so fast my chair rolled back. The movement sensor at the end of the aisle blinked red again. Tracking. Rena followed me toward the copy room, because motion feels safer than stillness when traps close in. The hall air smelled faintly of ozone, like a photocopier had been overheating, and my stomach tightened because ozone belongs to electrical strain. The copy room ceiling panel sat 2 steps above the printer, reachable with a chair. I dragged a chair over, the legs scraping tile, and the scrape sound felt like a lifeline, because sound meant physics still existed. Rena climbed first, pushing the ceiling panel up with both hands. Dust fell onto her hair. She coughed once, and the cough sounded painfully human. I'll boost the panel, I said, and my voice held a tremor I couldn't hide. Rena swung her legs up into the ceiling space and reached back down to me. Her hand was warm, gritty with dust. I gripped it hard and climbed. The ceiling crawl space smelled like insulation and old wiring, a dry, itchy smell that made my nose burn. My shoulders scraped against metal supports. Each movement felt loud in the cramped space, and the noise kept my mind anchored. Below us, the call floor lights flickered once, then steadied. Rena crawled toward the maintenance hatch, her knees sliding on plywood. I followed, dragging my phone, my badge, and the intact envelope in my pocket like a talisman. Halfway to the hatch, my phone vibrated again. The screen lit with a missed call notification that used my own name as the caller. The system had learned to spoof deeper than numbers. It had learned identity. Rena froze. "No phones," she whispered. I powered mine off. A physical decision that cost connection to the outside world, and my throat tightened, because the action felt like abandoning my mother, even if the mother voice had become bait. The phone screen went dark, and for a second the crawl space felt safer. The hatch latch came into view, a simple metal hook, no badge reader. Rena reached it and hesitated, staring at the latch like it could bite. "If we open that," she said, voice tight, "we trigger the roof alarm." "Alarm brings security," I said. "Security brings verification," she said, and she sounded exhausted. Another moral choice, different clothes, same teeth. Rena looked at me with eyes that held her dad, her job, her fear, all of it. "If I lose this job, my dad loses care," she said. "If I stay, this thing keeps collecting." I felt the weight of my own lie again, the reason we were trapped in a ceiling at all. "I answered legacy for my stats," I said, and the confession tasted like acid. "I started this." Rena's jaw clenched. "Fix it," she said, and the two words gave me the only plan left. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the intact gray envelope. I held it up in the dim crawlspace light. The paper looked ordinary, office cheap, and the ordinariness made me angry. "Open it and read it," Rena said softly. "Maybe it resets. Maybe it ends." The temptation hit. A clean action with a promise of relief offered by the system itself. Trap rule wearing a human mouth. I shook my head. "That's what doomed me," I said, and the sentence landed like truth I didn't want. Rena nodded once, slow, like she had already known. I took the envelope, tore it open without looking at the text inside, and ripped the transcript page into strips by feel alone. Paper tore with a satisfying, ugly sound. The tearing felt like violence, but it aimed at proof, not flesh. The moment the page ripped, a deep groan traveled through the building beneath us, a sound like metal shifting under load. The call floor lights below went out. Total darkness swallowed the crawl space. Rena grabbed my arm, nails biting, and for a second panic flooded in so hard I almost shouted my own name into the dark just to make noise. Panic loop tried to take me. Hands shook. Breath came fast. I forced myself to breathe and whispered, "Close the loop. Close it. Close it now." Not to the building, not to a listener, just to my own stupid brain. My phone, powered off, made a single click sound in my pocket. Rena breathed beside me, quick and shallow. "Light," she whispered. "We lost light." Resource loss. Another rung down. I felt for the hatch latch by touch alone, fingers sliding over cold metal. The latch sat there, patient. I pulled it open. A thin line of cold night air hit my face, and the temperature change felt like waking up. The roof hatch creaked as it lifted, and that creak sounded like freedom. We climbed out onto the roof under a sky full of stars. The parking lot below sat empty. The streetlights cast pale pools on asphalt. The city beyond stayed quiet, distant. For 2 seconds, everything looked normal. Then Rena's phone, still on, lit up through her cardigan hood. The screen glowed, and in that glow, I saw the incoming call label. It displayed my name. Rena stared at it, her face twisted in confusion and disgust. My phone, off, vibrated once in my pocket anyway. The building had carried the name out with us, like soot on clothes. Rena held her phone away and whispered, "How does it know outside?" I looked back at the roof hatch, and my stomach tightened as the answer formed. The two lowercase letters had never been random. They were a tag, a permission marker, a routing flag. The system didn't haunt one building. The system moved through networks, through compliance, through any place that asks for identity and rewards obedience. "We need to transmit the warning without using the system," I said, and my voice sounded steadier than I felt. "Paper. Physical. Off-site." Rena nodded. "Then drop it at the union board," she said, then winced because the job isn't unionized and she knew it. Her human misfire made me want to laugh and cry at once. We moved across the roof to the maintenance ladder, climbed down into the alley behind the building, and the cold air smelled like dumpster rot and wet cardboard. The smell grounded me in reality, and that grounding mattered because my mind wanted to float away from the guilt. Rena and I walked fast, not running, because running looks like panic, and panic invites attention. The street stayed empty. A passing car far down the road made its tires whisper on pavement, and the ordinary sound made me want to collapse. At the corner, a mailbox sat bolted to the sidewalk. The kind meant for business mail pickups. No cameras pointed at it from this angle. No badge readers, no network. I pulled a pen from my pocket, one I always carry because the job makes people sign things. And my hand shook as I wrote on the torn envelope scraps. Not my name, not hers, just a warning in block letters. The paper fibers tore under the pen tip because my grip was too hard. I wrote the rule the clearest way I could, because clarity had become moral. The note read, "Never state a legal name on a live line. Do not repeat it, do not verify it. If family voices arrive, end the call and leave the building." Rena watched me write, eyes wet, and she whispered, "Add the lockbox." I nodded and added a second line, my hand cramping. The final line I wrote came from the new handwritten note, the only guidance that had stayed true. "Do not seal names in the lockbox." I stuffed the scrap into an envelope without a return address and dropped it into the mailbox slot. The metal thunk sounded final. Warning transmitted. Constructive residue, small but real. Rena exhaled like she had been holding breath for an hour. "Day shift," she whispered. "They won't know." "I'll call the floor manager from a payphone," I said, then stopped because payphones barely exist and the sentence sounded like a joke. My mind was spinning. Rena looked at me. "No calls," she said, "not tonight." She was right. Every line carried risk now. We walked to her car and the parking lot lights buzzed overhead, back to annoying normal. Rena unlocked her door with the physical key because her fob battery had died last week and she never replaced it. That tiny routine detail that made her seem more real than any policy ever had. Rena leaned against the car and looked at me. "What about your mom?" she asked, voice soft. Guilt knifed through me. I had declined those calls. I had powered my phone off. I had chosen containment over comfort. "I'll drive there in the morning," I said, and the sentence came out raw. "In person, no lines." Rena nodded, then hesitated. "If it follows names," she said, "it already knows." I couldn't argue. We got in our cars and drove separate directions because staying together would have made it feel like a plan, and plans make people less careful. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Every time a street light passed overhead, the shadow of my hands jumped across the dash, and each jump made me think of that CCTV loop, my empty chair, the building pretending people didn't exist. At the first red light, my phone powered off, lit up anyway. The screen displayed one new voicemail notification. No missed call list. No ring. Just the little icon. I pulled over into a grocery store parking lot because my body needed to stop moving. My fingers hovered over the power button, then pressed it. because curiosity is another trap humans fall into. The phone booted, no service bars showed. Airplane mode icon sat on even though I never turned it on. The voicemail notification stayed. I tapped it with shaking thumb. The voicemail played without buffering, without loading, like the file had been sitting on the phone all along. My mother's voice whispered my name, slow, careful, like she was afraid of waking someone. Then she said softly, "Hold the line." The voicemail ended with a click that sounded exactly like a page turning. Later at my kitchen table, I found the same 2 lowercase letters printed on the corner of a blank envelope that I did not own. The note inside ended with, "If you've seen that symbol before, don't ignore it." Unless the rules were never about safety,